Good afternoon and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I want to cover the media blackout on the DARPA story. I think it's really interesting that nobody's covering this. Nobody's talking about it. Even large independent content creators aren't talking about this. This is by far the biggest story that's happening anywhere, and nobody's talking about it. However, this report coming out coincides with major shifts that are happening in the media, major shifts that are happening by the CDC, by certain institutions in pharma. And it's all too convenient for me. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. I'm going to read this letter because I mentioned this in my original video. There is an update on this. Veritas put this out earlier today. This is on their community tab if you want to go see it for yourself. There are, I think, 6 or 7 different members within Congress that have issued a letter to the CDC demanding answers. It lays out all the different points and what they're looking for answers on. And keep in mind here, somebody within DARPA had to make the decision to make this report confidential, or they may have been told to do so, but that's kind of hard to believe. So there's a lot going on here. None of this is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. It's also not medical advice. I'm not a medical professional. It's just my opinion. Now, this is happening, and the fact that there's too much truth starting to be told. Okay, people should always have their antennas up when the media starts telling more truth as opposed to propaganda, because all they do is lie. I'm going to go over a couple other points here, and then I'm going to go over the different instances that's happened with Bitcoin over the last couple days. And this is it's just all too convenient. This is happening at the same time. So that's what I'm going to be going over in this video. Now, first, this is from Veritas. They have several different congressmen and women have issued a letter to the CDC demanding answers. You should go read this report for yourself. It's on their community tab. It's like 3 or 4 pages. It might be a little bit longer than that, but it lists out all the different points as, okay, how come none of this has been made public? Like, who knew about this? Like, we need answers, so on and so forth. And why, okay. So let me read, because I think this letter is very interesting. This is the letter. This was the statement that was issued by the Marine major who was in DARPA, and he was the individual that actually wrote the report that was leaked to Veritas, okay? I offer no comment on the investigation or internal Marine Corps deliberations. I offer a brief comment to those who desire answers and to those who withhold them. To those seeking answers, I offer encouragement. There are good people striving for the truth, working together in and out of government, and they succeed. To those that withhold, I pray for you. Find the moral courage to come forward. Don't let a lie be our legacy to posterity. People will forgive. A commitment to truth is in the heart of this nation. Semper Fi. And I didn't have enough room to add his name and his rank within the military. So that's what he issued. So let me go back over this part. To those that withhold, I pray for you. Find the moral courage to come forward. Don't let a lie be our legacy to posterity. So this gets leaked, and this coincides with such dramatic shifts. And I mean, now they're talking about, cannabis can be, some type of a treatment, or it could prevent the virus. And, they just pivoted so quickly, but they didn't cover this at all. And I think there's something here. There's just something here. I've been watching the media for so long. If I consider myself to have a lot of understanding on anything, it is media propaganda. I've been watching these people for years and years and years. As soon as I figured out they were lying on a massive scale about pretty much everything, because I had certain people that I know that were just sitting in front of the news all day and repeating certain things the news was saying. So I had to look into it. And then I just went down a rabbit hole for years and years. And that's just where I've been ever since. And, you can look and listen to the media over an extended period of time, watching both sides, and you can get a general understanding of what's happening, what the big things that are happening are, and where things are going solely by their coverage. Now, not because they're telling you the truth, but because of how they shift their narratives, of things that they talk about, things that they won't talk about, all of those things. You can get a good understanding of what's happening and what's coming solely by watching the media and paying very close attention, under the understanding that it's all propaganda. If you understand that it's all propaganda and it's all just predictive programming, you can get an idea of what's actually happening. If you watch and you think that they're telling the truth, as CZ said, if you believe in the fake news, you will be poor. Okay, so this coincides with major shifts and on the major news networks. It also coincides with pivots by the CDC and some within pharma. No networks are even bringing this up as if they're looking into it, trying to investigate it. At this point, members in Congress have issued a letter to the CDC. So if they don't report on this either, I think that that's very telling. What that means, I'm not entirely sure. I could speculate, but that's all it would be, is speculation. And guys, I think all predictions should really go out the window in this point in time. I mean, we're in uncharted territory. And I mean, even my predictions should go out the window. Nobody's ever lived through anything like this. And the only people that know what's going on is probably a very small group of people. And again, the only things I know for sure, this is the new system, which IMF just confirmed that, in my opinion. But this is the new system. It's being implemented right now. Outside of that, I think anything is on the table. So, but people, like, we're all left to speculate. Like, everybody you kind of have to speculate. You have to look at the available information. That's how you make decisions. Look at the available information and say, okay, this is what I think is going on. But I try not to come to like conclusive, this is 100% what's happening. I try not to do that anymore, because everything that we've been told for the most part has been a lie. And there's so much propaganda. I think we're in the middle of a giant psychological operation. I think that we have been for quite some time. And taking that into consideration, I think it's like, I try not to get so like rigid in like, this is exactly what it is, because there's just so much deception. What my position is, I try to look at all the information and say, this makes the most sense to me. However, if new information is presented, I am entirely open to, looking at that and looking at adding that into the body of evidence and saying, okay, this may make more sense based on all the available information. But part of the reason why, and I was talking to a subscriber about this, part of the reason why people can't see this is because they lack the ability to be able to adjust their positions based on new information. And that's one of the, I feel bad for people in that situation because, well, I'm not gonna say feel bad for them. It's unfortunate. I'll put it that way. But people who are not able to, take in new information and to be open-minded about certain things, it's not going to turn out well for those individuals. It's really not, because they don't believe anything. They just, believe what they're told for the most part, or believe what other people believe that, that they think is popular opinion. So, all right, I'm not going to get off on a tangent about that. Okay. No networks are even covering it, as if they're trying. Like, it would be one thing, not even on Fox, not even on other right-leaning media sources. You would think that they would be all over this, but they're not. That's very, very telling, very telling. And it would be one thing if the report was leaked and there was no follow-up statement by the very major in the Marine Corps and former member of DARPA. If this hadn't been issued, I could understand it more so. But the fact that this was issued and that what it says, the fact that no media sources are covering it, something's going on. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to try to act like I know everything. I don't. I'm purely speculating, guys. All I do on this channel is I present the information and I say, based on this, this makes the most sense to me. But who knows? All right. Until this gets cleared up, this is the most important thing. Period. So until this gets cleared up, it's the most important thing. It's like everybody's moved away from it. Even large podcasters. So Tim Pool covered this, but then the very next day, like yesterday, doesn't even touch it. And this is the story. Period. This is the story. This is it. And and I'm not saying it's entirely possible that this could all just be, some type of manipulation. And that's entirely possible. And that's why I said on the original video, until there is clarity, 100% clarity on all of this, this is the biggest thing. Now, there could be clarity provided, and there could be an explanation that, it shoots down many of the things that people take away when they look at this. But until that happens, this is the biggest story. And large podcasters are staying away from it. The media is staying away from it. Even right-leaning media is staying away from it. But you can see that it coincides with them changing their positions drastically. It coincides with the CDC changing their position, coming out that very day, and basically just saying, yeah, well, actually 75% of people have 4 or more comorbidities. So they were already very sick. All of this doesn't make sense. And there's something bigger going on. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but I think if you read what he says, This tells me there are good people striving for truth, working together, working as in an ongoing thing in and out of government, and they succeed. Exactly what that means, who knows? But I'm going to tell you my general opinion on what I think is happening. So I think what's happening is that this was intentionally put out there to get as many people as possible to jump ship and or come forward with more information before something comes out. And I don't know what that something's going to be. I have no idea if something's going to come out. I do believe there will have to be some type of conclusive something with this. Like this cannot just be left in an open-ended thing. I think there's going to have to be some real clarity provided. And all these questions are going to have to be answered. And the questions to be answered are not really so much, I mean, yeah, there are from DARPA as far as why this report was made confidential, but also it's really from the NIH. I mean, and until those answers, and you know, I listened to Fauci's testimony the other day. I mean, it's almost like they're setting them up. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like the public officials are being set up, and they're going to have they're just letting them have more rope. They're just giving them just enough rope to hang themselves, even though in my opinion, they probably did that a long time ago. So this seems, yeah. And this aligns so closely with so many things happening in crypto in this sense. For people who just look at the available information, unbiased, look at the available information and say, okay, this makes the most sense. It's like those people can easily come to, you know, a rational decision. But there are people who, no matter what, will just ignore because of the sourced information. Like many individuals will see, oh, veritas, they're all fake. They're whatever. It doesn't matter where the sourced information comes from. And this is why I mentioned earlier in my videos about other, you know, large crypto channels. I disagree with them. I think they're being dishonest to some degree. However, I also acknowledge they can provide good information from time to time. So regardless of where the information comes from, if the information is legit and confirmed, like that's what it is. So something's going on here. Something is going on here. And I'm going to stay on top of this because something is going on here. And until it gets cleared up, there might be some, you know, it might not turn out to be this giant thing, but I think that something's going on here. And the way that the media shifted, it's almost like people knew this was going to come out. And people within the media knew this was going to come out. That's what it feels like to me. And they were going ahead and shifting because you got to understand these anchors have no decision-making ability. Like it's a top-down thing. Okay. I mean, it's, you know, a very small group of people control the media. And the way that they shifted here, it's just too convenient. It's too convenient. Now, on top of that, they're just openly talking about approval ratings. And I don't even know if it's 33%, but this also aligns with the percentage that I said was probably out there right now. There's an overwhelming majority against all of this stuff. So if you're watching this video and you're kind of concerned about all the craziness that's happening, I've never really, to some degree, yes, as far as just it's unfortunate that it's all happening right now and that we've gotten to this point. But at the same time, I've always said, like, I'm in the right side, like not necessarily the right side, because it's really not right and left and Republican and Democrat anymore. It is people who can understand what's happening and people who cannot. People who can look practically at the available information and come to sound, rational decisions, and people who will believe anything. Those are the two groups of people. There's no real politics anymore, in my opinion. All of that's an illusion. Okay, so the fact that they're coming out and openly saying this, they could have easily just said 39 or 41. But they're starting to turn. The media is starting to turn. Left-wing media is starting to turn. Like, people in those positions cannot last without the media running cover for them. That's the only reason why they last as long as they do, is because the media runs cover for them. On top of that, Democrats are retiring at a record pace. Now, there's always a lot of retirements, but right now what we're seeing, it's just exploding. And it's only January. And things are going to get much worse. So you have to imagine there's going to be so many more of them that retire. They're jumping off the ship. People are fleeing getting as far away as possible. And all of this, and there was already a trend that was happening here with this. But again, there's just too many things that have started moving. And in my opinion, this is the catalyst for it. And they're not talking about it at all. It's a complete blackout. So I think that there's something much, much bigger at play here. It's just my opinion. Okay, so this was the statement from the IMF the other day. I want to read over this because this just shows the insanity on people who still don't see what's happening. It blows my mind. Crypto assets such as Bitcoin have matured from an obscure asset class with a few users to an integral part of the digital asset revolution. The article reads, adding that this transition comes along with financial stability concerns. This transition. So we're transitioning from the IMF. And yes, there are financial, stability concerns. And that's why I did the video, it has to be this way. Because if you look at all the different markets, this has to be, they will keep people confused all the way up until the point where it becomes crystal clear where to go, what to do, and what's going on. Because that will come. That will come at some point in time. When that's going to happen, I don't know. Could a black swan event with something like this expedite that? 100%. Or any other type of black swan. There is a flock of black swans out there that could happen. I mean, there's black swans as far as the eye can see. So, just understand that. And that ties back into other things, talking about getting out of this market because of short-term price action. There are way too many catalysts out there. There are catalysts everywhere, all over the world, that could immediately start a chain reaction everywhere. So just want to make that point clear. But they specifically said this transition, and an integral part of the digital asset revolution. So you just remember when El Salvador was adopting Bitcoin. Oh, the IMF hates, the IMF's terrible. No. It's all false narratives and propaganda. And I hope that them coming out and saying this now is a little bit more, supports that position a little bit more, in my opinion. So the Taurus Clean blockchain to launch India's first Bitcoin ETFs with an S. So I might just be one ETF and they just wrote it like that. But, this is it. What have we heard out of India? India's going to ban, India's going to ban. And I did a video like 6 months ago from my porch. You can go down and look at it. And I said, it's looking like Bitcoin, it looks like they're going to legalize Bitcoin in India, because there were a lot of reports coming out from within India, not US sources, that I was looking at when I was saying that. And just ties into everything else. Everybody's going to adopt it. Everything that anybody says outside of that is a lie, or people just don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so the Tonga to copy, that was my opinion, what I just said. Tonga to copy El Salvador's bill making Bitcoin legal tender, says former MP. So in a ruling that is almost identical to El Salvador's bill, Tongan bigwig, Lord Fuzuta, anticipates that his country could adopt Bitcoin by November. So he's laying out the timeline and everything in here. So, yes, the Tonga, tiny, with probably a couple of different islands, but still, all this is happening at the same time. And then Lightning Network going live in Argentina. So this is happening, this is happening, this is happening after we've heard all these talks about banning it. The IMF is coming out. This is the stamp of approval from the IMF. Not that I didn't think that was already there, but this is a public stamp of approval. So for people who are still hanging on to this, it's a scam, it's a pyramid scheme, so on and so forth. And that's not to say that the IMF saying something in favor, anybody should be excited about that because of how involved or uninvolved they could be. But for the people who are still like holding out and thinking, this is a scam, like what else did people need to see? See, goes back to the part of people get so rigid in their beliefs of what they believe and what they don't believe that no amount of evidence can change their mind. Because if you need to see more, I don't know what else people need to see outside of this. So there's that. And all these things are happening at the same time. It just seems way too convenient. And the way that the media is acting is very, very suspicious. I watch the media. I have followed the media for years. And the way that they are acting is super, super suspicious. I can't explain it. I don't know what it means. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just telling you that they have pivoted so drastically ever since this came out, and they won't even talk about it. And the way that this feels like, to me, this message, this is an opinion, right? This feels like something that was very carefully constructed. This feels like something that was very carefully constructed, and that was a general message to a lot of individuals and institutions, right? But I do believe that the media themselves, to some degree, I think that they knew this was coming, and that's why they were already ready to go. They were already ready to pivot. So I think all predictions should go out the window. Who knows what's going to happen? We've never, there are so many catalysts out there that who knows? But this is really not sustainable. And the fact that the media is turning and Democrats are fleeing, retiring at record pace, and it's only January and things are going to get much, much worse. So I think something big is coming. I don't know how else to put that. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I don't know how much longer they can continue doing what they're doing, because they have lost so much. Legitimacy has collapsed. And that's what I mentioned like 6 months ago. Like, once legitimacy is gone, and it's gone within the overwhelming majority of the population, it's over. Because this only works. Our system only works when people are not paying attention and when the media can run cover for them. Now, everyone's paying attention, most people. There's tons and tons of lies that have caught up with them. There's nowhere for them to go. It's not just the health thing, guys. I mean, the financial system too. They've printed into infinity, and they're continuing to print. This is a collision course. We are on a path to a collision course. When it happens, who knows? But I would keep an eye on this. I would, stay up on this situation right here, because it almost feels like they're being set up. So that's what it feels like. Feels like they're being set up. They're being given the opportunity to either get out, be truthful, or they're going to get hemmed up. And that's what it feels like to me. We'll see what happens. This is just a pretty shocking statement, in my opinion. So that's all I have. And if you're not going to comment on the investigation or internal deliberations, saying everything else is so telling that it's all too convenient, guys. I can't fully make sense of it, so I'm not going to try to act like I know everything, but keep up to date with this. A lot of good news coming out for Bitcoin, in my opinion, and we'll see what happens. Take care. Have a good day. I'll see you in the next video.